Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 8 of Push2 A Plat Level Cap, the only show that is interested in raising your level and our own. Together, we are going to smash that cap. And look, I imagine it has been a massive week of trophy and achievement hunting for many people, Joe, locked in their houses. How have you been going?
Oh, what's it called? I've been killing it because I've been leaving work early every day because it is not busy and my overtime is capped, so I've been coming home and just slaying.
It's amazing how just a couple of extra hours a day can turn into so many platinums, can't it?
Yeah, in the last like 5 weeks, I'm in a trophy group on Facebook, Platinum Trophy Destroyers, and I don't know if you're in there either, but they do like a monthly leaderboard update, and I joined it on the 20th of last month, and I had 220, and now I'm up to 272.
It's not bad, is it? It's not bad. I noticed that.
Yeah,
I noticed this morning when I looked at the True Trophies site. Almost on a. Well, you probably will break 1,000 trophies this month. You're very close. So you're definitely smashing me at the moment.
I'm always slaying.
Now, why don't we have a look at your numbers then for this week? What are you up to?
So we hit level 51 yesterday. We're up to 272 plats, and I'm currently 838th in the US and 4067th worldwide.
It's not bad. It's good to see those positions starting to slow down a bit as you're climbing up the board there. Then listeners, much the same. I raised myself a level, so that's impressive, isn't it? Like I'm going to give myself a virtual pat on the back. I think for level 166, still a little bit on you there, Joe, but I think you're catching me. Platts 1007, and look, I've retained the 69th position in the world. I have a feeling that if I just
Nice.
I have a feeling if I just stopped playing completely, I would still be in this position. It doesn't matter if I have a big week or a little. I can't get above this. So I found my slot in life. It could be worse.
It's not a bad position to be in on the leaderboard or in real life.
That's right. That's right. Look, satisfaction all around, So what more could we want? Now, Joe, why don't we turn to before we get into the games today? Why don't we turn to this free game face off? Obviously, we're hitting the listeners' ears here at the beginning of April. Unfortunately, we don't have the games with gold yet for Xbox, but we'll drop that into the next episode, and then we can do some comparisons. But we do have the PlayStation PS Plus games, Joe. And the first one here is Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. So this now means that all the Uncharted 4 main games are now or have now been given away free on PS Plus. How does this strike you? Are you interested or not?
So I'm playing the first game, and I've been playing it for a little while, and I personally am not a fan of it, just because it obviously feels very old to me, because it is, and like the controls kind of feel dated and stuff like that. I've had some of my friends tell me that I just need to kind of slug my way through the first one, and then once I get to the second one, I'll enjoy the series. So maybe I'll do that one for my 300th plat, the first one, and then I'll work my way through 2, 3, and 4.
Were you on PlayStation at the time with PS Plus to grab those other ones for free, or did you already have them anyway?
Yeah, so I think I joined the month that I got the month that the trilogy was free because I saw a deal on CD keys. I got like a year plus for like $35 instead of 60, so I almost got it half off. So I jumped on that. I That was the month with the Sims, wasn't it?
Well, look, I don't know. I think The Sims was last month, so it might have been before that.
Was it?
Yeah, I think, or maybe the month before. Look, it all blurs together. Unfortunately, Joe, I own both of these games already. So, but look, that doesn't matter. I'm still waiting for them to find something I don't have. But
I do as well. So, but now I don't have to
yeah,
get up to play them, which is a big bonus.
that is true. And that collection you're talking about there, 1, 2, and 3, that's pretty awesome collection as well as particularly if you've never played the games to do it in that way. Although it's a rather large download, I believe, from From memory, so listeners, what can you expect with Uncharted 4? Well, if you're a Sony pony, you're going to be, over yourself with excitement. Obviously, it brings a conclusion to the series. There is an ending of sorts. Obviously, we won't go into it, but it does feel complete, which is it's nice. It's a nice place to leave it there. There's plenty of homages here to even PS2 games. In this thing, there's a bit of everything, Joe. So I think when you do get here, I think you'll like it. It is very modern. It has some massive set pieces. In fact, it has a fantastic sort of jeep or car chase, I believe, through the desert as well, which was a highlight for me in this game. So it has 68 trophies. It's ranked sort of a 4 out of 10 on most guide sites, around 30 hours. 2 playthroughs recommended for the collectibles and various weapon kills. You do need to play one of the playthroughs on crushing, and there are 5 multiplayer trophies, which are all easy. And I know they're easy because I managed to do them myself. Now, I know, listeners, you're like, well, hang on a second. That's not the complete truth. And that is also true. If you're a completionist, you do need to be careful. There is a free DLC with this game, Joe, the Uncharted 4 Survival DLC. Now, this DLC is ranked a 7 out of 10 and 70 hours. Can be done in single if you're some like god-like creature, or in a team co-op, which I think is really the only way to do it. Now, I believe also, Joe, this DLC was the difficulty was what's the opposite to nerfed? I don't even know. Is there an opposite to nerfed? When something gets harder?
Slaved,
Yes.
make you slave through it.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. But apparently they made it much, much tougher. And I was reading, I've never tried it, obviously, listeners, because it doesn't skill doesn't interest me in games. But I noticed that it also said that it's heavily geared or was made heavily geared towards microtransactions and buying weapons and things. So I'm not sure if that's still the case or not. But look, if you don't care about the completion, then jump in. The game is worth playing. Now the second one up for offer, Joe, Dirt Rally 2.0. Does this interest you at all?
So the thing I believe I bought this game the day it came out on the Xbox One. I never played it
Oh, okay.
because from what I read is like if you like mess up in a race, you have to start the whole race over. Like you can't like rewind or anything like that, which is I believe in the other Dirt games, which I've also coincidentally never played.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're right. So this is, I mean, the Dirt Rally, the original one, and now we've got this 2.0, which is going to be the free one coming with Plus. Yeah, they're very much sim based games. So your time is what you get. If you crash out, you can't. I mean, you can reset to the track, but you can't rewind or whatever else. You do get the option though to restart at the end of events, I believe. I'd never played much of this one myself, but some of the interesting numbers with this game, if you're interested in it, listeners, it has 72 trophies, 51 for the base game, but 21 DLC trophies across various packs that are free, Joe. So there are plenty of trophies here. What I found interesting was I played a fair bit of the first Dirt Rally, and it was really hard, listeners. It's very, very hard plat. Not, I mean, the online in itself is difficult, but also winning some of the rallies that you needed to do, and even just getting the nighttime trigger. There's a lot of difficulty in that plat. So the first game rated at a 1.78%. This one rates at a 7.8%, Joe, which tells me either that only the hardcores are back now, so they managed to get through it, or it is in fact easier. I'm not sure what the case is there, but that's something to go in with. Again, if you don't care about the trophies, these games are probably the best. Yeah, I think it's fair to say the best rally games at the moment, even considering the Xbox, because Forza more of an arcade game. It doesn't really have a rally mode. I mean, Forza 2 did. I don't know if you remember, Joe. That had that island, Storm Island or whatever it was. I forget.
Wasn't that in the third one?
Well, no, there was in the third one as well, but I'm thinking right back to the second one. I'm sure there was like a Mystery Island DLC as well. Well, listeners can correct me because the third
Yeah.
one was set in Australia, if I believe, and that had the snow pack.
All those DLCs
Mm.
like blend to me. Like I don't know which one is which in which game just because like I'll just like kind of like 2 is like 2 is good. Like it expands on 1,
Mm.
but like if you play 3 and 4, like you can't go back to 2. And cuz 3 and 4 are that good. And the only DLC pack that I know that's in any of those games is the Lego one because that one stands out to me. The rest of them kind of blend together. Like I don't know which DLC belongs to which game.
Well, it was much the same with 3 and 4. The first DLC packs were a little bit generic, but the second one was the Hot Wheels one in Forza Horizon 3, I believe, was fantastic, and the same with the Lego one in Forza Horizon 4. So, yeah, it's always the second expansion that seems to be more fun, I suppose. Maybe less serious, but I suppose purists wouldn't.
Playground does a really good job with those games.
Oh, look amazing. We've talked, I've spruiked they're the best racing games, across any console. But, with that being said, this is the best dirt rally game. WRC racing games, I suppose are the closest second, if you like. And the newest WRC as well, 8 is very good. But I don't know if you're looking for a more sim based, I mean, also equally as unforgiving. But if you're looking for a more sim based game, I would recommend having a look at this. The hardest trophy in the base game here is going to be the Fire Up That Car Again trophy, which is to finish in the top tier in a daily community event in the Audi Sport Quattro S1 E2. So the problem here becomes that you're playing against a pool of other people, Joe, and the problem is the longer these games are out, obviously the more skilled the players are that are left playing. So to get in that top tier, it gets progressively hard as it goes on. Why I bring this up, though, listeners, is this game is coming to Plus, so it is a fringe game like the Supercross was before. But if enough people jump onto it and do it, obviously that's gonna affect the online the tiers, if you like. So it could be a really good idea if you're going to do this game at some point in the future to jump on as soon as possible when it does release as free, because I imagine there'll be a lot of racing noobs that give it a go, and you might get a better, a bit more lenient time there, Joe. So that's what I'm hoping to do, because up until last week or so, the times are pretty tight there. So you really have to be good. Again, if you're a completionist, you need to be careful. The overall DLC packs are not too hard if you're used to racing games, but they're definitely not easy. The newest pack, though, 5, has a trophy flat out where you have to complete every scenario on very hard difficulty. And that is very, very hard, Joe. Like almost impossible hard from what I'm understanding. So good luck if you plan on 100%ing that game. But look, I think you'll enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Xbox puts out, because this is a very strong month, I think, for PlayStation with Uncharted 4 and Dirt Rally 2. So we'll see, Joe. There doesn't seem to be any leaks or anything at this stage. So I don't
They've
know.
been PlayStation's been killing it lately because they've been giving away like a first party game, like a top tier first party game, literally every month for the last like 3 or 4 months. And
Yes.
I feel like that's what they're gonna do going forward.
Yeah.
They're gonna build that. They're gonna build that log for the backwards compatibility for the PS5.
Hmm. Hmm.
Also, on last week's episode, while we were talking about backwards compatibility, I seem to have made an error. So apparently, the majority of the 4,000 ish games that have released on the PS4 are supposed to be backwards compatible with the PS5. They kind of misdirected. Like, there was a lot of confusion, like during that Sony presser, where they talked about solid
Hmm.
state drives for about like 3.5 hours. But yeah, apparently the majority of the games will be backwards compatible, and the top 100 that they talked about are gonna get like a boost mode, like a performance mode. So probably like first party stuff, Fortnite, like every Call of Duty ever that isn't Ghosts, stuff like that.
Well, it's funny, because I don't think you're the only person. I read in many places. I think maybe Sony weren't very clear at all there, so I wouldn't feel you need to clarify. It's not your fault by any stretch there the way they presented that. But to be honest, now as we stare down the barrel of what is this year and the reality that the console, it'll be it's extremely surprising if it does launch this year, I think. But Joe, I don't really mind, because one thing I've realized in this last week, having a bit more time, is just how many things I'm actually still waiting to play that I have. So I'm in no rush at all. I don't know about you, but no rush at all.
I just want something. I always want something new to play. So, and like when those new systems come out, I like seeing what they're capable of doing. So that's just me.
Yeah, look, no, it will happen. It will happen. Now, why don't we go across then, Joe? Let's find some games. Let's find some trophies or achievements here for the listeners to push them along this week. And what would you like to start with?
I bought Re-Idle off of the Japanese store. It's a visual novel slash rhythm game, and it takes about a 5 to 10 minute completion with the turbo controller,
Hmm.
and it's a 20-minute completion without. It took me about 15 with the turbo controller because I am stupid and don't read guides well, and forgot to do the quick save. so I had to play the couple minutes at the beginning.
Now, I like this combination, VN and rhythm game, but you said it's very quick. Like, what is the rhythm game element, or do you not basically have to engage with that for the plat?
So you skip like dialogue for a couple minutes, and then there's a rhythm game, and you skip the rhythm game for the first playthrough, and then there's no dialogue
Mhm.
choices, and it just ends, and you get 2 trophies. And then the third playthrough, you so you're supposed to save right before you get to the rhythm game, which I did not, and then you play the rhythm game, which if you play it on easy, you just hit the up button and the triangle button, and it's kind of like a DDR or I'm sure you played Root Rex for the Vita.
Mhm.
It's kind of like
Mhm.
that, but like with controller buttons, like DDR. Like that's really the only game that I can really think of off the top of my head that's like that. Yeah, I mean you get the point though. So that's like like 2 to 3 minutes, and then right after that, you make a quick save, and then there's a dialogue option comes up, and 1 trophy is for the first option, and 1 trophy is for the second option, and then it's bam completion. That's it.
Oh, fantastic. I like it.
It's 3 golds and a silver.
Now, you say turbo controller. Is that just because you have to mash one button consistently? There's no auto skip in the game?
So there's like an it only skips previously selected dialogue, and you have to continue the dialogue, you have to hit the R1. I did the R1 button. I don't think it really matters. You can probably do X, or this one's X. Some of those visual novels switch back and forth between circle and X.
Yes, it's
Cross.
wonderful.
Cross.
It's wonderful. It's like they're Japanese games, but they're incorporating some English. So even though your brain's wrapped yourself around, you will be using a Japanese controller scheme. They then proceed to fuck you by producing an English controller scheme for no reason. I love it, and that's becoming more commonplace. If you're doing a lot of VNs, you'd notice that.
Yeah, it throws me off because some are and some aren't.
The older ones, not at all, but the new ones, most of them. Now, how much is this going to cost us, Joe? You go to the Japanese store, you expect to be bent over. How much is this experience going to cost?
So normally it is, I believe, 800 yen, which is about $8, but it's on a like launch week sale where it is 100 yen, which is about $1 in US currency.
So now's the time to jump on that then.
Yes.
Good. Okay, well, look, I have a short and nasty as well that I can throw out there. This dissection. So this is a 20-minute plat. There is a wonderful video guide by ST, I believe. Apologies if I mispronounced the name ST there. Who does do a lot of horror guides. So I highly recommend checking out her work. She's on YouTube. She has her own channel. Many wonderful horror walkthroughs. But she does go on to say this is a 20-minute plat. Now, if you follow the video exactly, it is 20 minutes. The problem that I have with this game, Joe, is that it is an escape room, a horror game, if you like. But look, it's not that horrific. So if you don't like horror, it's not going to be a problem. The trophies are tied up in knocking pictures off the wall to find various keys that then open doors or safes and this type of thing. And the trophies are preceded with that, and then a sort of collectible ring, I suppose. You do have to play it through twice with a slight variation because when you leave, you need to be wearing one thing or the other. Now, this game would be awesome, Joe, if they didn't put in this roaming NPC horror, I don't know, monster thing that's just walking around because it's the only thing that can in effect kill you. If it sees you, it'll kill you. So you have to hide from it, sort of thing. So there are cupboards and things like that. Now the soundtracking in this game is not great, so you don't get a lot of warning. It's more visual cue, so you have to sort of watch him. Now, the more you play this game, the easier it gets because he's definitely on a loop. And he just follows that loop throughout this house, which has 2 levels or whatever. So once you get used to that loop, it does become a lot easier. The wonderful thing in this video guide is that it actually shows you, a full playthrough, if you like, of where to hide, where to move, and at what time to move. So if you follow it exactly, you're probably okay. The problem is that if you don't follow it exactly, if you get behind, then the wandering NPC horror man will be in a different position to where he is on the video, or if you're a little bit too quick as well. So take that into consideration. I think if you gave yourself an hour for this game, maybe more, it would be plenty of time because you could run it a few times. You'd get into the loop of how it works and stuff like that, and just sort of memorize it. So you don't need the guide. This would be a great game, I feel, Joe, to almost sit on and wait because if there is going to be an EU stack, and I couldn't find any information about this game at the time, listeners, so I'm not sure. But if down the track there is an EU stack, this is the perfect game to do one after the other. Because if you're going to put the work into memorizing the game, you might as well get two plats for it. I feel, Joe. So something to consider. And the great thing is, it's only $5 at the moment on the US store. So what more could you want for that price? I suppose.
It does have an EU stack.
Well, there you go. I don't think the EU stack is out yet, perhaps this week. So I would definitely recommend doing them one after the other rather than memorizing it, leaving it weeks, and then coming back and trying to do it again. It's definitely worth it then for two
Oh,
plats.
that's what I do anyways. I do it all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely worth it for two plats for this game, I would say. What do you have for us next, Joe?
So this is an Xbox exclusive and it's published by Microsoft Studios and it's developed by Twisted Pixel, who
Hmm.
did Explosion Man, The Maw, Comic Jumper, which were some pretty popular summer of arcade games back in the XBLA days when they were worth 200 gamer score, and I was really picky about buying them because it was only 200 gamer score, which is nothing. So, Loco Cycle is a game where you play as a assassin motorcycle, and he is trying to escape the agency that he works for, and his engineer that like builds him, who is named Pablo, kind of gets stuck in the chassis of the motorcycle, and he is trying to escape and dragging this poor man that only speaks Spanish throughout the entire game.
How do you come up with this concept? It's fantastic.
Twisted Pixel is a very, very creative studio when it comes to their games or whatever, and just like the concepts of like a lot of them. And like the fact of this game's existence and creation by them doesn't surprise me at all. A lot of people don't like it. I think it's because it launched at $20. Now it's only $10, and it has a 360 and an Xbox One stack. I got the completion in both. There's one achievement that's a little tricky. It's for getting like a really big combo. I think it's 250 hits. I mean, 5 to 6 hours to get both. The 360 one is also 400 gamer score, not 1,000. I personally loved every second of it. I had a blast playing it.
This is fun. And did you say is the Xbox One version, is that 1,000 gamer score or is that only 400 as well?
Every Xbox game, with a few exceptions, has a base score of 1,000.
Oh, perfect. Okay, excellent. And 5 to 6
Yeah,
hours.
there's
I like that.
one that's not. I think it's Blues and Bullets that isn't, and that's because it's a point and click that never finished releasing because the studio went under.
Well, I'm gonna write that one down, Joe, because that sounds like a lot of fun. I would enjoy that. That appeals to my warp
I
sense.
I think you would enjoy the ridiculousness of it.
I love that sort of thing. So no, look, I definitely will. Now, the second one I'll throw out for your listeners, and I'll preface it, when I do, because you'll be like, "Well, that's not short. That's not a spam game. That's going to take forever." And yes, that's what I thought as well. But that may not be the case, listeners. And this is the Grand Tour game. So it has 75 trophies. That includes the base game and tons of free DLC for 1,920 points. But Joe, it has 112 achievements. 1,545 gamers score because there are more achievements in the DLC. I don't know if you knew that. I'm not sure how much of this you've played so far.
I think I played the first 5 episodes on the Xbox One. It's not a bad game.
No.
I think it was $15, and it's Amazon Game Studios made it. And
Mm,
yeah, I mean, like, it was like really cool when it released because it was like they released each episode along with the show. So like a show releases on Amazon Prime Video, and then like an episode in the game,
mm.
like based on that episode, would release. And I like that's the first time I've seen something like that. And it was a really cool concept. The game isn't great, but I mean, like, it's definitely good for $15.
Yeah, yeah. I think it really appeals to the fans of the show. I mean, it's highly arcadey. It's not a sim racer in any way. I mean, there's not a huge variation in the way the cars handle or whatever else, and the controls are floaty. But that aside, when the game released, some of the times were pretty tight in some of the races, and some of the races, the AI or the other two guys were very aggressive. The rubber banding was really harsh, particularly in that first episode. Now that has all been softened, so it's much easier, and I can confirm that because I'm actually going back through it now and working on it on Xbox One, and it is much easier, especially if you've done it once before. So they've definitely been been softened. Now, the reason I bring this game up is if you're not interested in the show, as Joe has alluded to there, you can skip it. Now, if you were skipping, this plat could probably be done in around 8 hours, or 100% gamer score, 6 to 8 hours. If you're watching it, obviously it's going to take longer because of the episodes. Now, the other option, of course, is to skip the episodes and then watch them separately because the game does come packaged with the show as well, without the cuts for the gameplay. So you could do either if that so interests you. So I'm not going to dwell on that because we have talked about this game on the main show, but just some tips and things that I've found help, particularly coming back to it the second time. You are going to need two controllers for this game. There is no online co-op, only local co-op, and that'll help for the split screen trophies. That's also going to help for farming the pickup trophies. There are a lot of in the free DLC. There's most of the DLCs have either complete 25 or 50 of a certain pickup. Again, what I suggest is you play the whole game. So you play the first season, one episode, the only episode in season 2, and then all 13 episodes in season 3, and gold them all first. So in effect, play the whole game. Then do the 50 race wins with each character, clean up whatever you need there. The very last thing you should be doing is farming the pickups, because hopefully you'll be working on those as you go naturally. Some you'll get, some you won't. Yeah, the easiest way to farm them then is to go to the very first track and just literally sit on a pickup point. If you use two controllers, you'll never time out in effect. So you can take as long as it takes, if you like, just driving backwards and forwards. The problem is that when the game first released, obviously only the pickups that were available for those episodes were there. So it meant that they'd randomly cycle through. You'd have a higher percentage of getting those. Now the whole game is out. All the pickups can randomly cycle through. So it doesn't matter which track you use, the pickups will come. It's just now a matter of which ones you get. So obviously now the RNG nature could mean you get a little unlucky with your last couple, and you may spend longer trying to farm the last few if you're waiting for them to come up or whatever. But again, hopefully you won't have too many to do through there. So look, the hardest trophy in this game, ironically, is in the DLC. Again, it just depends, on how you find it. I suppose it's really got nothing to do with driving either. It's where you're on the back of the truck and you actually have to shoot an automatic weapon at the targets as you go through. So for the particular trophy, the hit all targets, you have to do it with it's like a machine gun, Joe. So it's quite easy, but there are 3 different guns with the 3 different guys. You have to complete each one without missing a target to get a gold, which is also related to a trophy or an achievement. But look, again, it only takes a couple of goes or whatever and just memorizing where they are. So look, the only other tips I can give here, Joe, most of the time trials happen on this Ebola drome track, which it's called the Ebola drome because it looks like the Ebola virus, which is sort of ironic considering what's going on at the moment. Perhaps there'll be a Corona track one day. I don't know, Joe. But look,
Fantastic.
we can look forward to that. Maybe season 2. I don't know. Or season 4 they're up to, aren't they? So most of the time trials happen in this. Again, I find they're very liberal with the time. I mean, some can be tight, some can be within a second. But just in case you're having any troubles, a lot of the game plays on a premise that you don't actually need to brake. In fact, probably the only time you are braking, you should be using the handbrake because it is so floaty anyway. So just as a general breakdown, if you're having any trouble with that Ebola track, the best line that I've found that fits again for all the time trials quite comfortably is with the first, and I'll just run you through the track, listeners. Look at this. I'm basically playing the game for you, Joe. Just pass me the controller now. So the first
Okay.
first right, it's a gentle right. You can cut the corner. You don't need to brake. The second right is a mid right. You do again cut the corner, but you have to cut it very fine. So you leave late and you go tight into the right. You'll be against the fence on the grass, but you don't actually really notice any drop in acceleration here. You don't need to brake, and you won't hit the wall. So you can be accelerating the whole way through. The next corner is a left hand. It's a hard U left hand corner. Here is a handbrake turn. There's no point using the regular brake. You can slam on the handbrake just as you enter just before the hip of the turn. I would suggest as you accelerate out, the cars have a prone tendency here to oversteer. So you may end up hard into the left wall. That's the arcadey nature of it. So when in doubt, don't steer. Basically, the car will straighten itself up more than you expect. The next turn is a left gentle. You don't need any brake. The next turn is another left mid. You come wide into it again, into the hip, no break. And then you have a hard right and a hard left. This is basically, you can kamikaze it here, Joe, if you want. You can just go screaming into the wall and hope and let the wall push you around. That is a valid strategy. I've used that. Or you can hard hand brake there and just sort of skid both then through to the. Now, this last bit can be a little bit tough because if you're going to fail the track by a second or so, it's going to happen in these last two turns. This is where you need to milk the time. So the second last turn is a left mid. Again, you can go wide here, but it doesn't seem to be very valid because the track's banked slightly. So you do lose acceleration. So it might be worth here just tapping the brake. This might be the only time I use the brake over the handbrake. Then the last corner is a left mid. Now you can come into this wide depending on the line you've taken for the previous turn. So that second last turn, very important, I think. The last one, if you are lined up well to come in wide and come in tight, you can do it again with maybe just a tap of the brake, but hopefully nothing. So that I find that's pretty optimal. That should take out any of the frustrations, particularly on the Xbox, because there's a couple of more tighter times I've noticed in those DLC. But look, there's no reason to be afraid of that game. And if you're not into racing, that is still a fantastic pickup. And I believe in Australia at the moment that's $20 on the Xbox, and I assume it's the equivalent still on the PlayStation. So Joe, shall we go across to the Rata Platter of the Week? Duck Souls Plus. What did you think?
So I believe it's 100 levels, yes.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm about a quarter of the way through the game, and it's it's not bad. It's definitely a little on the challenging side. It's obviously a it was designed to be like one of those like little platformer games that Ratalaika likes to put out, but it mimics Dark Souls where it's kind of brutal in the death category. I mean, if you're patient enough, I don't think it's really that bad. There's also tons of checkpoints in each level to the point where it's not really a problem. I'm having fun with it, at least so far. Right before we started recording, I got stuck on I think like level 30-ish in that department, and it's probably because I'm like looking at my television at a 15-degree angle and trying to play this game while I play visual novels on my Vita.
I like it. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's well put. So this is by the developer Green Dinosaur Games, obviously published by Rata. The game of the week across the Hong Kong NA and EU store with cross buy with PS4 and Vita. So it's funny, Joe, because when I read it, Duck Souls and this 100 handcrafted brutal levels, I was thinking like this could be like Alteric or League of Evil. I'm not sure if you've played those, which I think are much more tougher than this. So I was a little bit turned off by it. But look, I've completed all three stacks on the PS4 now. It basically strikes me as a grown-up Gravity Duck. The mechanics are not dissimilar with the what do they call it? It's not a zoom, but a dash, isn't it? Sorry, a dash
Yes.
mechanic. It has a double jump as well. Look, I think the more you play it, the easier it gets. Once you've completed one stack, which you can do comfortably in an hour, I think the other stacks will become very, very quick because you sort of see. I mean, you see the path, if you like, or whatever. As Joe said, the checkpointing is incredibly fair. I don't know how far you've got yet, Joe, but later on you get to the point where you have these homing rockets that are chasing you. So if you stand still for too long, they hit you and you die. But you can sort of just bolt through each checkpoint and then die and keep moving if they're getting too close to you. So that makes it easy. And then the final couple of levels, there's actually a ghost that starts following you that can move through the walls and stuff. But again, it's very easy, listeners, to manipulate if you're having problems. And the last level, I don't want to ruin it for you, Joe, but it's not that big an excitement, I suppose. It's basically just a massive square grid, if you like, and you're in a little box down the bottom, and the ghost is starts with you in the same box, and you have to sort of move up to a lever to open the door, which is sort of in the middle, and then the door is in the top right box. So it's a matter of you can take any path you like. Personally, I found across the three stacks, the best path is actually just to jump and dash at the same time, and you'll diagonally move across. You can actually almost hit the switch and the door in the same pattern, and so the ghost doesn't have a chance. But how did you find the controls in this, Joe?
They're not bad. I played it I first played it I think Friday afternoon, and I didn't play it yesterday at all just because I had to open today at like really early, so I kind of went to bed early last night. But it was like
Mm.
part of the problem was my attention span is kind of garbage. So when I came back to it today, I forgot how to dash
Yes.
because I play so many I play like a ton of games. So if I don't play something for like 2 days, I forget how to play them. And
Mm.
it's like I need kind of like a reminder, and I'm like playing it today and I'm like I'm I'm jumping with X and I'm like trying to hit like one of the triggers or something like that to do the dash and it's actually square.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just like, ugh. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yo, why am I not doing this? This is bullshit." And it just turns out I'm the idiot.
Oh, no, it's funny because I read in it or listened to a few video guides, and there was sort of some of them mentioned that the controls are a little bit whatever or whatever. And I think having played the 3 stacks, I've realized that actually the controls are perhaps more accurate than you think, because when you dash and you jump, it can dash on the diagonals and variations on the diagonals. I think it can be a little frustrating for that reason at times, but definitely in the later levels you can save a lot of time by dashing on diagonals and things when you're jumping, as opposed to straight up and sideways. And I mean, if that interests you, there's a fantastic, and I would probably recommend it, there's a fantastic speed run. In fact, there's a couple of speed runs, but I think the world record at the moment is under 20 minutes. That one, obviously, it's not trophy or achievement specific, but it shows you the path through, and it actually shows you how clever some people are at using different angles, and even sidestepping some of the obstacles and stuff in the levels. That being said, with the trophies or achievements here, everything will come naturally. You do have to complete 100 levels, but again, don't let that panic you. Most levels can be done in a few seconds, a minute or two, even if you're struggling. There is one missable achievement, if you like, although there is level select. It's in level 75. It's halfway through the level. You'll come up to a checkpoint where you're just standing there. On the right hand side, you'll notice that there's just a wall. It's actually a breakable wall, if you like, or a blank wall. If you walk into it, there's a green dinosaur there, obviously representing the developer, and that will unlock that mysterious last trophy for you. But you can do that when you do level 75 or at any time. And the great thing is that level is particularly easy. So don't feel that if you're struggling with the game, you really need to pick it up then, because you don't want to do it again. I have not played this game yet on Vita, Joe. I'm interested. I'm always scared with these sort of games on Vita. Will you be partaking in the Vita version at some point?
If I can platinum one of the versions of the game, I will usually play all 6. Yeah, it might take me some time to get to it or whatever because it's just like I know a lot of people like to play like all those games like back to back to back to back to back to back or whatever, and it's just like
Mm.
I will play 1 or 2 versions and then I will like get bored with it. So I'll be like, yeah, I'm not feeling this today. So then I play something else and then I again learn or have to relearn the controls and the mechanics of the game.
Can understand that. I mean, I really quite enjoyed this game, so I wanted to play them back to back. But it also fits perfectly in the category that I think, you said you're playing a lot of games or whatever else that you do forget. So this is the sort of game that if you have the option to do all three at once or whatever, it will definitely be more time efficient. Not in so much in remembering the levels even, but just the control systems, particularly the third time. Speaking of the third time, at this point in time, the Hong Kong stack is not syncing. So that's fine if you're doing the PS4, but just be careful if you're Vita tricking at this point. It might be worth waiting until it is, which I imagine will be later this week. So, Joe, why don't we go across? We're in an economic and financial crisis, but it seems appropriate still to have this topic. It's a very ironic. But what are you going to waste your money on this week, Joe?
I bought 2 games or whatever since I wrote that down, which I probably shouldn't have, but I need me some Resident Evil 3
Ah, yes.
and I I need me some RBI Baseball 20, which
Oh.
is actually yeah, I buy it every year for Xbox One or whatever, and it's not bad. It's definitely not the show, but it's like a good arcade baseball game for what it
Mm.
is. I think it's a little pricey. It's $30 on disc, but because of the current state of the economy, disc-based games here are getting a little hard to find, and some sellers are selling it for $50 instead of 30 on disc because no one can find it.
Yes. There's always profiteers amongst people. Are you getting this for Xbox or PlayStation?
I buy it for Xbox every year, and this year I don't have to. Every year I hit up Mr. Smirnov, gamer score leaderboard extraordinaire,
Mm.
and I have him send me a copy of the Canadian version because it has different cover art. This year it does not.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19, I own the US version of the game, and I own the alternate cover art with the Toronto Blue Jays players on them as well.
Okay, I like that. And then with Resident Evil 3, are you going in blind? I noticed there was a demo up over the weekend. Did you look into it or you're just gonna go in?
So I have to play Resident Evil 2, which I
Mm.
still haven't played, and once I do that, then I will get to 3. I heard that the controls are much better. Resident Evil has been like one of my least favorite series over the last 20 years until 7 came out.
Mm.
Just because I don't like the idea of in a survival horror game where you just have to stop and plant your feet and then aim and shoot. It doesn't make sense to me.
Mm.
It does in 1995 when games are exceptionally limited, but in like 2009 when like Resident Evil 5 is coming out, I to the when Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 are coming out or whatever, and we're still on this old dated type of game engine where like something is coming after us, and in order for me to shoot it, I have to stop moving completely and then like aim with my gun and then shoot it. Like the fact that it's coming at me while I'm cycling through my inventory, that's fine. But the fact that like I have to just like completely stop and aim at it, just like that pisses me off. And apparently they did not do that with 2.
Ah.
I'm yet to find out, but I really like 7 because it has
Mm.
that like it goes back to the horror roots or whatever, where like 5 feels like an action game and 6 feels like just garbage.
I like it. Yeah. I'm not going to play that 3. And I'm probably not going to go back to 2 either because it's too intense for me, but I look forward to hearing what you think about that. And then for me listeners, well, look, there seems to be a little panic in the stores here that they may not be open, which is unlikely because Australia everything is going to stay open by the sound of it. We're just going to balls to the wall this virus by the look of it here under our fearless leaders. Or fearless or leader, I'm not sure.
Everybody's doing it right with us.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, we I don't know. Anyway, we won't open that door, but the stores have actually seem to have permission now to sell some games early. So I made the executive decision to cancel the couple of pre-orders that I had for later this year and take them as credit, with the exception of the Persona 5 Royale, which they pushed on as early, a week early or something here. So I do have that, but I decided to use some of the credit and I picked up the TT Isle of Man right on the edge too. I bypassed the first TT Isle of Man racing game. I know it's not going to be easy and I know it's not going to be short, but this race, I don't know if you know this race, Joe. It's probably the most dangerous. Well, not probably, it is the most dangerous race in the world for motorcycles or whatever. The number of people that die on this track is unbelievable because it's not really a track. It's just the open road and the speeds they're doing in the narrow turns and stuff. So not so much for the plot. I want to see this track and experience it or whatever. Although I do understand it's a very, very good racing sim. And then I also picked up, and we may talk more about this in the next episode, Joe, because I have a feeling once we know how to do it, it's going to be a spam game. And this is the Casebook of Katie Smith, which is it's a very low budget, but also cheap. I think it's like $10 or something. Detective game, and I understand from Patreon producer Zador that most of the cases in this game only go for around an hour or so. So I can't imagine it's probably much more than a 5-hour game or so. There is one trophy though, Joe, here that's a bit bullshit. Apparently, you need to. It's like an arcade game at the start where you need to get like a million points or whatever, and basically all it is a vertical runner. So going forewarned. But look, I managed to do it, so it can't be that hard, I think. But other than that, the game will be easy. But we'll see. So look, I think that's enough, Joe. Is there anything else you want to throw out there, or shall we go gracefully into the night?
I got one more thing about spending money. And I'm a big supporter of this, at least for my American people, where a lot of things are shut down. But go support local businesses because I have been doing that a lot lately. I should be responsibly buying groceries and cooking at home or eating stuff at home, but I have been visiting restaurants that I actually like and getting takeout as well because I don't want them to struggle and close, and that is starting to happen here, which is not good.
No, look, I second that. We're actually quite lucky now because we're working from home. But there's this little cafe down the road or whatever else, and it's in a park, so it's in a perfect spot. It's not in a built up area or commercial area or whatever. So we've been doing the same thing, dropping down each day because you can see the guy has a lot on the line. So it's wonderful to support, and it doesn't take a huge amount of money, just a few dollars a day, because it's not going to be a massive influx these people need. It's going to be continuous money. You're right. So with that being said, obviously, I fully understand there are many people around the world that are doing it far tougher at the moment than we are. And I just hope that we could provide some sort of light relief for you. I think most likely what you'll find will happen over the next few months, obviously, as the games, I assume, will start slowing down in releases. We'll probably, Joe, go over some older games as well. So don't feel by any means you need to be buying the latest and greatest spam. We'll drop in a full mix of stuff, I think. It's just so that everyone can partake. And I will let you know, listeners, I'm looking very closely at the Game Pass on Xbox, and there are so many wonderful deals there. So even if your game budget has in effect dried up, that is still a fantastic option if you can swing that at some point. So until next week, Joe, I will. Well, actually, it'll be later this week, I think, because we're a little bit late. So until later this week, Joe, I wish you well on your Dark Souls quest, and I look forward to seeing how many plats you get this week, sir.
Yes, I'm gonna try and kill it this week.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you, listeners. Have a wonderful week. May the trophies fly every which way, hopefully onto your account. If not, you can send them to me. I accept that, of course. Have a wonderful week. Let's smash that cap together. Be well. Keep smiling. Bye.
Later.